Probably going to show that website link. During the show. You know how to see it.
It's 5 o'clock. I'll call the study session to order. Item number 2, all commissioners request discuss any item of concern on the regular session agenda.
We got roll call.
I did forget roll call, didn't I? Because it says roll call right here. So I will just say that all commissioners are here. We're all present. So now, item number 2. Any concerns or questions on any item on our regular session tonight? Thank you. All right, no questions. We'll move on to item number 3, study item 3.1, update on housing study.
Charlene, do you want to kick that off? I know Amy's going to do it online, and we've got her in the system.
Thank you all. We appreciate everybody's time and effort this evening. We wanted to kick off our housing study. We have Amy here who did the original study where she's going to give you an update from the findings. I do want to reiterate that ERDA is ready to kick the housing study off, the planning and strategies. In fact, starting in June, our core planning group is going to rally together and start planning the outreach and start addressing some of the challenges, which I know Amy will cover. So I'll give that over to Amy, and we appreciate her time and coming back to us this evening.
Thank you.
Great. Well, thanks everyone. And it's great to kind of be back virtually. For those of you who were part of the presentation in February, this will be very similar, hopefully a little bit shorter. I know I probably went pretty long that time, so I'll try to keep it a little bit shorter. And then, if you have any questions as I'm going through, since I can't see you right now, just if somebody wants to drop something in the chat, and then I'll try and pause and answer any questions that you might have if something comes up as I'm kind of going through the slides. So let me see here. Let me get my screen up that I need. All right, so I want the study is basically broken down in, sorry, go ahead. The study is broken down into kind of quantitative analysis, qualitative analysis, our housing goals, and then strategies. So I'm going to try and hit on those at kind of a high level on all of these areas. So if you do have any questions, just let me know, and I'll also try and leave a little bit of time at the end of the presentation. On the quantitative part, I'm going to really try to hit this at a very high level. There's quite a bit of data there. If there's something that you've seen in the study that you've got a question about, just let me know and we can circle back to it. When we look at the community as a whole, we know that there's been kind of flat to steady growth over the last few decades. And so what we did was we ran a couple different population scenarios, one based a little bit, maybe a little more on historic trends, and one based probably a little bit more on what we were hearing from the community with regards to potential for growth, those opportunities, the jobs we need to fill, the businesses that would like to expand, all of those things that are opportunities out there in the community that could really begin to elevate maybe some of the growth patterns you've had before. Under this, so what you're seeing up here on the screen is a growth pattern that assumes about a 0.5% annual growth rate, which would put you at about 55,000 by 2035. To support that population, you would need to add about 1,400 units, almost 1,500 units. That's actually kind of on par to a little bit below, but on if we just looked at like the last 5 years where you had 1 year where you had a pretty big spike because of some of the multifamily construction that was done, it probably puts you on par with what you've been building. If you look back 10 years, it's maybe even a little bit above that kind of. Say, what if we were able to actually capture that growth a little bit more, put us at more like at a 1% annual growth rate. If we were growing at that, we would need to add almost 3,000 units to the market, right? We're kind of doubling that growth rate, so we're going to double the number of units we need to add, which means we're going to have to add about 200 units per year. You did have a year where you did that with some of the multifamily construction, but it has not been a consistent pattern in that regard. Under this model, we also assumed that the vacancy rate we maybe wouldn't be producing quite as many vacant units. That helps us just be a little bit more conservative in that final number. The part I want, what the next thing we usually like to do is to take these numbers and start to break them down by owner, renter, and price points we'd need for those owner, renter. But before that, I want to set the stage a little bit to talk about where we are with regards to affordability today. With the cost of housing. So just so everybody's on the same page, when we talk about affordability, that means a household. It doesn't matter what income that household is in. They're spending less than 30% of their household income on housing, whether that's owner or renter occupied. This chart here gives us a little bit of a snapshot of understanding where, how many households we have within an income range, and then the units that would be affordable to that income range. And what that shows us here, this is all just based on census data, is that when we think about housing units that are affordable to households making between $25,000 and $50,000, we have about 4,100, or this is the census estimate on it, at least in 2020. We had about 41 households in that income range. But we had well over that, almost 9,000 units, or right at 9,000 units that would be affordable to those households. That means we have more units than households, that kind of when we match those two up. However, we have a shortage for individuals making less than 25,000. We also have a shortage of households for households making less or making more than 50,000. So what's that mean? That means that we got a lot of people in these higher income ranges that are living in these units that are maybe a little bit more affordable, the more affordable rentals and so forth. So when we sit in a meeting and we hear a lot about, boy, we could use more houses that are in that 125,000 range. There's just nothing out there available in that range, or what we have comes on the market isn't great quality. It's because we have a lot of people all competing for those same housing units because we just don't have a lot of them, or we have a lot of people all competing for those same units. I left this into, it gives you a little bit of snapshot on kind of comparison on affordability to maybe some other communities in the state, and also we included Minot, North Dakota. Minot is kind of a similar situated with an Air Force base that I thought made it kind of an interesting comparison too for you. That was outside of Oklahoma. So a couple things as we move across this chart. When we talk about the value to income ratio, we're looking at median home price based on census numbers to median income. What we're looking for there is a ratio between 2 and 3 in that ratio. So if we're below 2, we have concerns that the market's undervalued. So can I buy a home or can I build a home and get it appraised at what it costs me? Can I go and put $30,000 into a home and I'm going to get that back out of it? If I don't think that's going to be the case, I might not do that investment. I might not build that new home, especially maybe in a struggling neighborhood. If we're over 3, that's also very concerning because that means housing prices are well above what is affordable to the median household income in that community. Stillwater is a great example. Most university cities, because of the student population and their lower incomes, tends to have a very high value to income ratio. So you can see that in there. You also see you see those two numbers, the median household income, the median home value. Are these these numbers, I believe, are 2020 census estimates. Are they? We know that inflation has been happening over the last few years, and so those numbers, those median numbers, are all probably a little bit higher today than they were at that time. But proportionally, when we look at comparison to other communities, that proportion is probably the same. Same can be said for rent. We know rents have been going up. But what's really important there then is that if our incomes haven't been following that, then in that final column, our percentage of households that are cost burdened. Excuse me, just a second, got a tickle in my throat. The percentage of households that are cost burdened, and what does it mean to be cost burdened? It means that the
Whenever she took a drink of it, froze.
Cost burdened is any household spending more than 30% of their monthly income on housing. It's defined. No, to be helpful.
Spinning ring of death.
If it takes too long to later to reconnect it, we could probably.
I feel better. I thought I was saying when this kind of thing happened too.
We can handle this.
Say that did not touch that computer.
Yeah. Sudden.
What we might want to do is move on to the next item, and then we'll come back if we get connection, okay? So that being said, I'll move on to 3.2, review a proposed ordinance to amend the Enid Town Square Overlay District to prohibit additional medical marijuana dispensaries, grow facilities, and processors.
Honorable Mayor and Commission, before you tonight is a draft ordinance, not for you to act on, but for you to provide feedback to staff on, should you wish. I do have a brief PowerPoint presentation. I'm not sure if I can cue it up, but you do have the ordinance in front of you. And as you know, staff is proposing to, the draft ordinance would change the rules in the Enid Town Square Overlay District. As part of background on this, we've received some complaints about the cannabis establishments in the downtown area. We did meet with some of the downtown stakeholders and talked about concerns and remedies associated with that. Let me go back on this. There's the ETS boundary, which is the Enid Town Square, which, as you know, is an overlay for our downtown. I've highlighted in these next two slides the purpose intent of the Enid Town Square to highlight those pertinent sections that relate to what we're proposing to do as it relates to the cannabis regulations within ETS. As I said, we did get some complaints about cannabis businesses in downtown. We did have a meeting with the stakeholders, some of the stakeholders, to address some possible remedies to those concerns. The draft ordinance that's in front of you is a way to potentially remedy that situation, and the stakeholders are on board. So the long and short of it is the draft ordinance adds a definition of a medical marijuana processor. Keep in mind, these uses are permitted by right currently in the ETS and other zoning as well. But also the ordinance takes it a step further to prohibit new medical marijuana dispensaries, commercial growers, or processors within the ETS area. We, as staff, believe that this is the important first step to the preservation and revitalization of our downtown. Next steps in the process, if you desire, we will take the draft ordinance to an upcoming MAPC meeting. We'll include a public hearing notice. It'll be a newspaper notice given the large area that we're covering. Additional public outreach if that's the desire. And the anticipation would be that you would be adopting the draft ordinance by August of 2023, and the ordinance would go into effect 30 days thereafter. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions should you have them of me.
I have a question. How many establishments are we talking about?
Currently, we have 6 licensed businesses, establishments in the ETS.
Wow.
That meet that definition as we're proposing it.
And it's my understanding that if they're already there, this would not, they would not have to move, right?
That's correct. It in effect grandfathers them in, for
Right,
lack of a
right.
better
So
term.
what if someone else comes in and applies for a license and wants to buy their business? It would be a new license and they would not be able to do that.
Good question, Mayor. As I understand it, based on the rules from OMA, they do currently have a moratorium until August of 2024 on any new grow dispensaries or processors. However, they will allow, if it's a transfer of a license, they will allow that, to my understanding. And Carol, I don't.
And usually, there, you can stop for a little while, but after 6 months, the use is terminated. So the focus is on the use, not the person. It's the property and the use, it's not the person that has it. So if the license, so the use does not stop or does not stop for more than 6 months and it is transferred, then it goes with the use.
Who determines if it's being used?
Well, I mean, is it operating? I mean, you know, is there a business there? I mean, it, you know,
The city would
it's-
do that, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
we issue a certificate of compliance as a routine matter in coordination with OMA. Sorry, Carol.
So for instance, we've had places that have gone dormant. And other than those that are affected by the AED ordinance, which is the airfield environs, which has a longer time period for dormancy. So for instance, if, you know, if a, we used to have more adult entertainment places in town. And if the adult entertainment part ends, but it stays as a bar. If it ended for 6 months, then it would go away if it was prohibited. Now, that's probably a bad example in Enid, because actually we don't prohibit them. We just, we didn't want them to congregate closely together. That hasn't been a problem. I think actually possibly the last one is being auctioned on South Van Buren. But uses are in rem, and they go with the property. It's not the license. But it is easy to tell whether it's a going concern or not.
Mayor, we would, I know Alex, we would be hyper-focused if the use goes dormant. We would start somehow, I don't know, tracking that period in
We would.
accordance with guidance from Carol on that, so.
That is correct, as well as working with OMA. As I said, my understanding is there is a moratorium issued by the state on any new licenses, but that wouldn't preclude transfers necessarily.
I guess, I go back to what I was saying, how do we know that they've gone out of business? Or they're not in use anymore? They could sit there for 3 months before we'd actually realize that, right? If they were still paying the electric bill.
And
Or paying-
Mayor, that's a good question. We do have ways of checking and coordinating with OMA, and again, there's a certificate of compliance, so we can be more vigilant about that. I know our code staff is on the lookout for those things, but if we need to step that up, we can certainly do it.
Okay, all right, thank you.
So is this just in the ETS area that the dormancy for 6 months, or is this?
The proposed rules are going to fall within the ETS boundaries, so it would be a prohibition on the establishment of any new cannabis use as we've defined in the draft ordinance. So we can pull that ordinance up, but there's a new definition to make it more inclusive and not just relate to dispensaries. It's grows, it's dispensaries, it's cultivation, and any of those types of uses.
Okay, so outside of this area, because I'm gonna bring up 3200 East Randolph, which has been dormant now for quite some time because I heard that they had an issue with their licensing.
Okay, it's only if there is a prohibition. So if there's a problem with a license and it goes dormant, I mean, so for instance, a house, if a house is, in R2 and is empty, it doesn't, it could be empty for 10 years and then you can use it as a house again. It's only if we prohibit something, then it becomes, if it's a non-conforming use to the area that it's in, then the non-conforming use has a sunset period. If it's a conforming use, then it doesn't matter whether it goes dormant or not. So if a pharmacy is shuttered for 10 years and it's in C3, and there isn't a special, you can't have pharmacies in C3, then it can be reopened, no problem, because it's the use. Is the use prohibited or not? Then you go to the grandfather aspect, only if it is prohibited. Now, they would have to re-get their license from those people, but that's not the use issue. That's licensing with the state.
We figured as staff that we would stay focused on this small area to see what difference we can make with the zoning rules. And if it's the direction of this commission to look at it citywide, we can certainly come back and look at that too.
I was just thinking about the big metal junkyard that we have out there that's an unsightly deal out from the
Understood.
highway and everything else. It's been dormant for over 6 months now, and nothing's been cleaned up, and I know the day got their licensing and everything else, so.
It's a licensing issue.
And Commissioner, certainly our city manager and assistant city manager are working very closely with our department and sparing no resources to do something about that, because I know it's frustrating and it's frankly an eyesore. It's the gateway to the city, so.
I will say there has been some cleanup out there, but it's never going to meet the standards that it probably needs to. But we continue to work on that.
We probably could think about a overpass overlay. I mean, part of the problem is that the rules.
That's where I was going.
Okay, yes, that would be something
That's
to
where I was
consider.
going.
A targeted
We do an
thing,
overpass overlay.
yes.
Thank
Do
you,
that.
thank you.
Yeah, I like that. Any other questions or comments?
I think our presenter is back online, ready to continue.
Okay,
Is that right, Derek?
all right.
Okay,
Thanks,
thank you.
Alex. Thank you.
She is, but go ahead to next.
Item 3.3, an update on five-year street plan.
Thank you. Joe, were you wanting to open this, or you want me to open it?
Yeah, hey, I'd just say that street plans, street improvements are very important to the city, very important to the commission, very important to the city staff, and certainly the public. I'm excited to have this presentation tonight, further evolution of our efforts on street plans. I believe we may have our street plans posted online now for the concrete repairs, for asphalt repairs, maybe for arterials. I think we're still working on our local street 5-year update. So I look forward to the presentation. I'm sure we'll all have questions. Be sure and tell us about the, or maybe Morali will, about the assessment tool that we've gotten recently and work, because I think that will help us in evaluating the severity of problems to help prioritize. So anyway, why don't you go ahead and get started, and
Okay.
I will jump in, and the commission will jump in when they want to.
Okay. Mayor, Commissioners, thanks for having me again tonight. We'll go ahead and start with the slideshow, please, if you can. And what I'm going to kind of go over is kind of what. Okay, I guess I'm going to do. I guess y'all just get to listen and not look at the pictures. But what I'm going to go over is basically I'm going to kind of define what engineering's role is in what the upcoming projects, our 5-year plan, as well as kind of like that process of how we get from what is requested would be a term, or what is needed to the actual project and into construction. So we have 3 types of projects that we consider in the engineering department. Those 3 are called, we consider them major street reconstruction. These are our ODOT partnership projects. The second type is street rehabs, and these are what we previously have called mill and overlay projects. These are large projects that aren't necessarily reconstructing the subbase of the roads, but are resurfacing the roads and doing some upgrades to water lines and sidewalk nodes. And then the last part, this is the part that we've considered previously, we've called them local street project. When we say local street project, this is what this new group is going to be called, and it's we call it the street reconstructions. And these are going to be kind of your local streets, your minor streets that will be complete reconstructions, new water mains, and then all new sidewalks as well. A couple examples of the major street reconstructions are Willow Road, Oakwood to Cleveland, and then also Cleveland, Chestnut to the railroad tracks. We've got a great before and after picture of that. But you guys remember, I'm sure you do.
They actually have it on their iPads.
Oh, they do?
So,
Good.
yes,
Okay, awesome.
or have access to it, so you could go ahead and talk them through it.
Okay, good deal. Well, if you look on the picture on the left, obviously that's when Cleveland was a 2-lane road. You can see the apartment complex had actually already been built. And then the picture on the right is after it had been expanded to a 4-lane road with the boulevard in the middle. The examples of the street rehab projects are the Randolph Avenue, Washington to 7th Street, a lot of work that we've done on Randolph out to the east, and then Broadway Avenue, and that's been from Grand all the way out to University, basically, right over the past 5-6 years. But pictured on that from the first slide there is the before after, or the before picture, excuse me, of Randolph and Grand, and then on the next slide there is the after picture of Randolph and Grand intersection. You can see new surfacing, new sidewalks, new corner nodes, things of that nature are part of those upgrades. The next type of project was a street reconstruction project, and I got the pictures I got there for our Commissioner Saragusa's favorite project, the Maple Avenue 10th to 16th. That right there is looking, I believe that's looking on, you're standing on Maple and you're looking back to the west at 11th Street. And you can see it's a brand new road, new sidewalks, new driveways, and it also included the new water line construction along Maple.
Oh, I'll point out that there's also 3 houses that, if you look, are different colors from the first picture to the second picture, and that's all done after the fact that the street was done and the sidewalks were done, that the owners took responsibility in their homes and made them look a ton better.
Yes, sir.
It's the overspill.
So how do we get to these projects that we've selected? For major street reconstruction projects, we take that from our long-range plan, which Enid area long-range transportation plan, which was done in '94, and it's got a list of the projects that in '94 that they wanted us, or I believe in the commission, I guess would be the way to say it. The commission wanted us to work towards it, and we're doing a really good job on that, and that's where those projects come from. And then obviously you guys' direction. For the street rehab projects, one of the first tasks that Mr. Hitt assigned me to when I arrived 5 years ago was actually putting together a 15-year project list for street rehabs. And so I obviously dug into that and I did that. And so I've developed a 15-year plan. And basically every 5 years we look at every year we look at the 5-year upcoming list, and that's where we keep building on. That 15-year plan is based off the last maintenance that's been done on that road, the condition and the traffic count, excuse me. For our local streets or our street reconstruction projects, basically that's a 5-year plan. It's kind of a rolling plan, I guess would be the best way to describe it. And that list initiates from you all, from Public Works Department, and I mean, lack of a better term, it comes from the citizens. These are the streets that the side streets, smaller streets that, may not get as much traffic, but they may be in terrible condition. So we take that information, that list that we getting given, it's a good way to say it, we get handed to us, and then we evaluate it using in condition and traffic counts. Now, Mr. Gilbert mentioned that this past year we've initiated a program, I guess would be a way to say it, and it's twofold. Half of it is it takes traffic counts based off of cell phone pinging and vehicular GPS pinging in the areas, and so it uses a big algorithm and counts the amount of traffic that is in the areas, that is on those streets, and it's given to us. And then the second one is a is a condition of the streets, and it's a roughness factor, and it's pretty cool technology too. It's an app that we've downloaded onto a handful of cell phones that our inspectors use. And then we also have a technician that has it on her cell phone. And basically, when they get in their vehicles, get in their trucks, they mount their phone on this device and they push record. And then they travel around town and it records where they're at and how rough the road is where they're at. And so it takes that data and collects that data and rates the streets based off the roughness index of the streets. And then another part of that is it also has a manual entry for street conditions. And so the technician, when they're out on the streets, and if there's whether they're in good condition or bad condition, she's working her way through town and basically manually entering in, okay, this street has, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 large potholes within 500 feet. And that data is entered in there. And in the terms of what the app knows, I guess is a way to say it. And then it calculates even further on how rough the actual road is. And so we've taken those two components, traffic counts and condition, and combined them into a rating scale for us to use to even further our knowledge and our depth of picking streets, what we're going to do. Anything else to add on that? I rambled quite a bit on that, more than I meant to, but. All right. Next slide is engineering project phasing. So this encompasses, oh cool, we back up? So, all right. So after we've gotten the list, and we've gotten the list of projects that you all have approved through the budget process that we're currently in the middle of. This is kind of the phasing and the timeline of what kind of the general speaking project would take. Approximately a half a year to a year of design is phase 1. 0 to 2 years worth of right-of-way acquisition and utility relocation is phase 2. In phase 3, that's kind of the bidding, award, and contracting phase. There's, obviously some laws in that and things like that in contracting and bidding of Oklahoma. That there's certain things we can't skate around or skip. So it takes the quickest quarter of a year up to a half a year. And then phase 4, construction. You guys know that construction is kind of the phase that seems like it takes the longest because it affects the longest. But most of our projects or street type projects are done within a half a year to 2 years. I struggled with trying to find a way to best describe this term, but the ideal timeline, the smallest, most perfect project is not going to get done for a year and a half. There's no way around it. That's basically the quickest way that it's going to happen.
And sometimes it takes longer. I'll just jump in. Hey, this is good information to explain why when someone asks, why does it take so long to fix a street? It's no different in Oklahoma City, no different in Edmond, no different in Dallas, Texas. These are the phases generally that are followed, and so it just takes time. So today you're hearing extensively about the complete reconstruction process, which is one of the 3 programs we have. This one's time-consuming and costs a lot of money, so we don't get to fix as many streets as we'd like to. You're going to talk about what we are going to fix soon, but the other 2 programs that we're going to talk about on the 6th, we've touched on before in study sessions, and maybe even at budget time, which it is budget time. The asphalt program, the overlay program, we do that in-house now. As you're well aware, we have a new machine doing that, and we also do the concrete repair program. Everywhere you go, you see new asphalt roads and you see new concrete repairs. Morali has reminded me that that's really maintenance, but it's really good maintenance and it's a lot faster. So anyway, I just want to clarify that. A year and a half, I'm surprised you would say, you wouldn't say longer, but a year and a half is fantastic.
Let me reiterate. The smallest, most perfect everything goes perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, and my question is it a year and a half or is it a year and a quarter? Are you using metric or fractions?
A year and a quarter.
Okay.
Also, Jason, I would like to chime in on this. Many times we have, due to technology and things that you all have learned and you've passed to the contractors that do this type of work, the utilities are not left in the middle of the road anymore. The utilities are moved to the easements. So that takes time, because you have to tear out all the old and put in the new, and then connect to where it needs to be connected. The only thing that's really left in the road is the sewer, the storm drainage sewers. Now, those are left in the road and they need to be there. But as far as the utility lines, the gas lines, the fiber optics and all that, that's all placed into the easements now. So it takes more time. And sometimes when we get in those positions, we have to go to the landowners and say, hey, can we move your fence over a little bit? We have to cut some trees out of the way. Reason why I know, because I'm involved in this. So I want the people to understand that, it takes time, because you have to totally reconstruct that part of the construction sites by putting the utilities, taking them out of the road and putting them over into the easements. So that takes time.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So my 5-year major street reconstruction list, remember, this is kind of like the ODOT projects. These are the ones that we partnership with ODOT through the small government process. I'm not going to go through every single bit of it, but obviously Cleveland Street, we are setting on go. You guys are this evening are approving that, correct? Okay, sorry. You guys are approving that on the meeting tonight. The next project, we've guys seen the construction happening over on Garland at the intersection, and then also down from 412 up to Randolph, the water line relocation. Basically, everything's construction-wise for utility relocation is done at the intersection. They've just got some more to do down to the south, closer to 412. And then once that's done, we've got a little bit more right-of-way to get taken care of. And then we'll be introducing that project to ODOT to do that partnership. On the upcoming budget, we have Randolph Avenue, Garland to Oakwood as a design project. So we will be initiating that design over the next couple of years. And then just moving forward, we're going to work our way east through the design process, and then also just kind of going through those steps each year following that. So I apologize. These two slides are really packed full, but this is kind of where that 15-year program that I mentioned earlier. This is where it comes from. So upcoming year, we have Randolph, US 81, and Washington. Once currently starting in June, the water line relocation will begin. And so once the water line relocation is completed, we'll have that project out to bid. Actually, I should just rephrase that as that project will be going out to bid probably in the July timeframe, and it'll follow the water line. 66th Street, Willow Road, I thought we spoke with that one prior meeting. This is the construction, not really reconstruction, but it's a construction or the upgrading of a gravel road out 66th Street out between north of Willow Road through a TIF, as well as the upcoming project of the grand design, Randolph Avenue 16th to 25th design, and then also the Grand Avenue design US 412 is to downtown. Like I said, you guys can look through those. If you guys have any questions on those, give me a holler. But that's the timelines for those projects that we'll be looking at.
Just got one question.
Yes, sir.
Since you brought it up, the Randolph 16th to 25th,
Yes, sir.
are we gonna look at 16th, the intersection, as the 16th to 25th? Or are we gonna wait until we do 7th to 16th for the intersection? Because it's like one of the worst intersections north and south that I got.
I'm trying to visualize which intersection that is. I'm sorry.
16th and Randolph.
Yeah, is that,
Four-way stop sign, north and south,
behind
is like,
Longfellow.
got whoop-de-doos.
Yeah, that's 10th.
Oh,
Well, like that.
okay. We'll look into it. Yes, sir. I get confused over there on that part of town, 10th and 16th and 20,
North of New
yeah,
Flashing
20, all of them,
Lights.
yeah.
Yeah, 10th is behind Longfellow.
Right, yes. Yep. Yep. So obviously that one's getting done with the 10th Street project that's upcoming, so we'll look at it and make sure if it needs it, we'll get it done.
On Randolph, so we are taking it to 4 lanes, all the way from Garland to Van Buren, essentially.
Yes, sir.
And a lot of that is, especially from Cleveland to 81, that's dependent on those homeowners. Where it splits into 2 one-lane roads, is that dependent on a lot of these homeowners selling the city the property? So
Yes, sir.
this could even be, if somebody's stubborn, this could go back to.
Right, and that section is actually that last section that I have down there, you know, kind of in the future. And Mr. Morse has been working on the purchasing of those houses for how many years now? Well, you've been working on it for 2 or 3 years, but the whole process has been a several-year thing, so.
It actually goes back to the 1980s. We took a house. There used to be a big, old house, and we had to wait for the woman to die because she had a life estate.
Oh, well. So, and actually on the, which I can provide if you'd like to see it.
We could just go ahead and jump in, just generally. Yes, we've been working on that, and Carol's right. It's been a really, really long project, but I would say it's accelerated in the last 2 to 3 years. Scott could give you a quick update. We've got more than half the properties, right?
You bet. We've got more than half. We have at least 2 or 3 at the title company right now. We should have a couple of blocks within the next month or two where we'll have complete blocks that are purchased, and we'll have some nice clear space. So we're going to continue to work with that, and I think we have 12 homes left after the ones that we have under consideration at the time. So we're getting there.
And, that part, that all of that aspect of it, purchasing the houses, is part of the long-range plan from '94.
And why is that the long-range plan, right? It's to help relieve.
Yes, sir. Yeah, it's to take some of the pressure off of US 412, off of Garriott, so that some of that traffic will, you know, obviously it'll decrease the amount of traffic, make 412 last longer, as well as direct some of that traffic into town, into some of the business areas of town. So
I can't remember for sure, but where were we gonna, we looked at doing a roundabout. Was that in downtown or was that?
It was
On Randolph?
It was downtown at Washington and Randolph. I'll just jump out there. We did not think that was a good location for it, but
Okay.
one of these days, there's going to be a roundabout, and I don't know where it's going to be. Maybe you guys can help, engineering, you can help us figure that out, but it will be.
don't forget, you got your roundabout at the soccer complex. So.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, in Vance, yeah.
I'm curious about the intersection there on Randolph where the railroad tracks cross. Is there going to be a stoplight put there, or how is that going to be handled?
That'd be something that we'll have to look at through the design process. Yeah, that'll be interesting because of all, you know, there's that, I'm not sure the name of that other side street, but there's a side street that kind of comes in there from a different direction. And so that'll be something we'll look into the design of during that process. Okay. And then finally, our 5-year street reconstruction. These are mainly focused on what we consider local streets. Upcoming for that is 10th Street, which that project will be, the water line has been awarded or will be awarded, and as well as the construction the bid has been opened, will be awarded an upcoming commission. And then Birch Avenue, we spoke about that a little bit previous meeting. After some study and design, looking into it, we considered that it'd be more beneficial for the city to just overlay the project and have Public Works overlay the project, in which we have funding in that in the upcoming year. And then looking down below, Locust Avenue, 8th Street, Hackberry Avenue, 12th Street, and Oak Avenue. That's kind of the run of the projects that we're going to look at. One thing I would like to point out, just for you guys' awareness, I've got, there's a year skip in here. So 2024 to 2026 in between there. So 10th Street is a large project, and so we've broken it up over two years, actually kind of technically 3, but we've broken it up over 2 years so that half a project's gonna happen in 24 and the rest of it's gonna happen in 25. And that is all that I have. Any more questions or comments? Okay. Marley, are you going to show the? So Marley's going to show what we have online now. If it's online now or going to be online soon.
All right, so we have a lot of work going on here. I'm just going to give so this will be available to the public to see all the, like, where the locations are, all the projects are, what have been completed, and the timeline of each projects. For example, so we have the street projects. These are all the major reconstruction projects like Jason talked about. So the green, it's going to be the complete reconstruction, widening of Randolph and Garland from Garriott all the way into 81. So it's going to be broken down into multiple years. When you click each line, it's going to tell when that's going to be.
Cool.
That is the major reconstruction on green, and the purple is a major resurfacing program. Those are all like Broadway, Randolph, Oak, Oklahoma. So these are all the major resurfacing programs. Then we'll come back to all right. So these are all local, no, that's not one. Yeah, these are all the local streets resurfacing by Public Works. And this is their master plan for the next 5 years based on the wards and the locations. You can see the different colors. And the black represents what they have been completed. And these are the colors that represents where they are and which year they represent.
And if we want to zoom in on a ward, we could
Yep.
just do that?
So we can pick a ward and see, and click on that street, and it will tell you when it's going to be done. For example, we can pick right here in the Southern Heights. It will tell that's done in 21. So. The same way, we have street point repair program. So these are all the locations that's been completed so far.
You make it look so easy.
And right here, the red ones are in the plans. That's going to be repaired in the next 5 years. So, have any questions?
One question for me, Raleigh, the asphalt streets, what's the lifetime on those?
Asphalt reconstruction or asphalt overlay, sir?
Just the overlay?
Just overlay.
Yeah,
It's about 4-5 years.
okay. All right.
But asphalt reconstruction, like it's 17 and a half years, but
Okay, and one more thing. There is a street we need to take a look at, and it's in this gentleman's ward. In Ward 3, when you go out to the airport, past 54th Street, when you go across the bridge, well, under the bridge where the railroad tracks go over, that's a heavily used street, and it's industrial. A lot of bigger trucks and stuff go through there.
Market Street.
Market Street.
Yes, sir, on Market Street, East Market Street. We really need to look at that one. Yeah, that one's probably one of the roughest streets in Enid. So I just wanted
I
to
think
bring that
about
up.
like 6 years ago, when Tom Carson was here, like he worked on that Market Street from 30th to 42nd. So that's, I mean, you can see the difference from 42nd
Yes,
further.
yeah, you're right, he has.
Yeah.
And it's really nice. But going east of that, I believe 54th,
Yeah.
going east. Reason why I know, because I put a fence up there. So I was like, man, and I just went out there a couple of weeks ago. But we just need to take a look at that one.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, Raleigh, I will say, I think this is going to be very helpful to the general public and to us also.
Yes, sir.
You know, the old saying, you don't think any roads are being done unless they're in front of your house, right? But there's a lot of work going on.
Yep.
A lot of dollars being spent. I'm sitting here looking at this list of I think these are probably intersections that I'm looking at that they have.
Those are concrete point repairs.
Yes, where they fix the concrete just
concrete
in different
panels, yeah.
places around. I mean, there's pages of these things, so a lot of work going on that we don't realize sometimes.
Yeah.
So
Public
thank
Works,
you
yeah.
for what you're doing.
Yeah, Public Works really worked on that, the program, so they're really ramping up that program. Very good.
Good.
Yep.
Thank you.
And we're going to talk about that more on June 6th. Is this on the website now? Can we show them where that's at?
there.
So we can go there,
Can you
yep.
help Kent navigate to where it's at so we could show, the public could go out there and start looking?
Road projects.
And that shows the map that you were just, one of the maps you were just taking us through?
Right.
That's street repairs, so that's concrete or?
I mean, it has everything, like
Everything.
right here is the layers. They can turn on and off based on what their wanted preference and locations are.
Thank you, Mom.
As you go down the page, there's all of the listings too, if people would rather see it in a different format. You can see just a list of what the streets are, if that's the way you'd like to see the data.
I like that. I think anytime that we can show that information better, overall, I think it's going to be good.
We're showing the future and we're also showing what we've done.
Completed,
too.
yes. Yep.
And one more thing I'd like to add when I was speaking before on the timeline that it takes to do these jobs. I forgot to state that the engineers make sure that they replace and put in sidewalks. So by putting those sidewalks in, all the ADA requirements, that work, it takes a lot of time. So great job, man.
Thank you.
Jason, thank you.
Derek, did we?
Yeah.
Hi, can you hear us? Amy?
Charlene, I think due to technical difficulties, we might need to reschedule Amy and hopefully on a day that she could be here. I know she couldn't be here today, but we can go over some dates. It'd be great to come in person on something so important. Because I don't think she'll have time to complete
don't
it.
either.
And we have one more item on here that I know the mayor's going to want to address.
Amy, can we reschedule, since we had so many difficulties, and maybe we can get you down here in Enid, America again? Okay,
I think she can hear us, but we can hear her.
okay. We will reschedule. Thank you. Okay, I want to move on to item 3.4, update on Monsie's park improvements.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. Good to see you. I just threw a slide together here to kind of show you the upgrades that we've done at Munsey's Park at 1700 West James. Actually, in the exact area, Mr. Scott Morris is working on getting these houses cleared out so we can get a better view of this beautiful park now. Approximately a year ago, Miss Pat Munsey's approached me and said that she would like to help us upgrade Munsey's Park Playground. Her late husband Charles donated the land to us to be made a park back in the late 90s. And she wanted to pay for the improvements of a new playground in the park. So fast forward a year, we have got a new playground. We've updated some infrastructure there, some sidewalks and stuff like that. So we'll just kind of click through these pictures here and I'll show you exactly what we've done. Here's a couple photos of the old playground that we had. As you can see on the left picture, that the old T swing set, it was unsafe. Safety standards just would not allow us to have those. There's places that are unsafe, especially on that top horizontal bar. So this is the old playground, just a sand surfacing. We did have a pavilion there. It was needing some help, needed some refreshing. I didn't get an overview picture of this, but prior to this, the parking area there was very narrow. You basically had to pull in and do a 3-point turnaround to get out of there. So once she approached us, we realized she wanted to upgrade the park, make it better. We realized that we need to, one, make it ADA compliant, make our parking lot bigger, and also we wanted to refurbish and make everything else look good. If we're going to go through the time and she's going to help us with this, we just wanted to make sure it was top notch by the time we were done. So we did redo the pavilion. We rebuilt it, made it all metal with metal roofing, made ADA sidewalks, doubled the size of the parking lot that was there, and we added a new drinking fountain also. So here's a few photos of the sidewalks. There were no sidewalks in the park prior to this. And we made sure to get swings for Ron Jansen. By the way, I just had to throw that in there.
For adults?
Yeah, adults could use it.
Great. I love to swing.
So here's our new pavilion, upgraded, fresh coat of paint, metal roofing. It should last forever. There's our ADA parking and our ADA access to the playground. We did add some gravel to that, and like I said, we widened the size of the parking lot, so you can actually get in there and turn around now. So got sod laid, and then today we held our ribbon cutting there, and Pat arrived today. She had some family from out of town. That was really neat to have them here. And that's all I've got. I'll take any questions if you guys have any.
I'll just say that I had the opportunity to be out there today, and what a fun event. First of all, Pat, and I'm going to call you Pat because we've known each other for a long, long time, but you had your entire family out there, as we can see in the picture, some of the kindest people. So that doesn't surprise me since I know you, but very, very nice. Come all the way from California, or not from California, from Denver, some of them did. And I think one thing that impresses me most about this is two things. One, you approached us wanting to do something. That just doesn't happen hardly. So thank you very much for doing that. And number two, it's another indication of public-private partnership. We have done that in Enid multiple times, and we've done it well. That's why our community is like it is, and I hope we continue to do that. Thank you so much. That was a big outlay. I know you spent a lot of money on that, but it will not go to waste. And also, one other thing, y'all brought cookies today, which, I think that won all of our hearts. So thank you for what you did. thank you for the family also that was a part of this. So it means a lot to us. Thank you. Would you like to come up and say something?
Not to put you on the spot or anything.
Well, it's really been my honor to be able to do this for the community and upgrade the park that was getting pretty badly, in pretty bad shape. And I'm just glad that, that we were able to do this for the community and for the city of Enid. So it's been our
Twice.
privilege. Yes,
This is the
twice.
second time you've
Yes,
done it.
Yes, the first time was in April of 2004. And I think it looks a lot prettier now than it did when it was dedicated back then. So it's, but I really appreciate all the work that the city put in on it. I mean, most of the real work was done by the city, except for the construction of the playground equipment, I think. So it's, but anyway, it's been our pleasure, and we just hope everybody enjoys it.
Well, thank you. We appreciate it. And Corey, I know your team did put a lot of work into that, so thank you. Y'all did an excellent job. Any other discussion? If not, we're going to adjourn, and we will start a regular meeting at 6:30.